The anime begins by introducing us to the capital city of this world, called the Labyrinth City, and is given such a name because of how much it looks like a labyrinth. The narrator explains that although Labyrinth is known to be a land of opportunities for people, it's also a very dangerous place, full of risks, and you never know what may be waiting for you down each path you take. In the first few seconds we are introduced to a guy called Nick. Nick is a renowned war swordsman, belonging to a popular group of adventurers called the Masters of War, a well-known clan of Labyrinth City. Nick also happens to be our main protagonist, and he explains to us that his life is in a pretty great place right now and has the most beautiful girlfriend, who also dreams that him and his whole group of adventurers will soon reach the highest of ranks, something he's wanted for as long as he can remember. But suddenly, the leader of their group called Argus randomly kicked Nick from their clan for no apparent reason. The MC was confused and asked why he did this to him. But Argus gave ridiculous excuses that he fought like a dog and that he doesn't bring enough to the table. Nick was absolutely gutted and couldn't believe what had just happened, and explains how he always looked up to Argus as his father figure, as he never had one while growing up. He decides to meet up with his girlfriend to maybe cheer him up a bit during this sad moment, but as he was kicked from the party, she tells him that they might as well break up now, as she doesn't want to date a nobody. Nick sits in pure silence in the coffee shop for a while, even after she left. He only just came to the realization that indicates that the girl was only with him for pure interest of being around the Masters of War group, and all this hit the protagonist like a ton of bricks, and he did what every man would probably do, and decided to lock himself away in his bedroom and became a lonely otaku, fantasizing about his internet idol called Agate. Nick became obsessed with her, only to distract him from his own reality of what happened a few months ago, and decides to become her biggest fan, giving all his time and admiration to Agate. But to understand why he fell in love with Agate, we are taken back to moments after he got dumped by his girlfriend. Then we see the protagonist who continues to feel emptiness in his heart and doesn't understand why everyone betrayed him, especially Argus. We see another moment between Argus and Nick, and Argus tells Nick that he kicked him because he thinks Nick thinks he's better than him, and that Nick was starting to take the role as the leader of the group, which made Argus angry and wanted to stop Nick from giving the others orders. But while the protagonist continues to be heartbroken thinking about these events from the past, a beautiful blue-haired girl arrives outside in the pouring rain, where Nick was sitting, and she tries to encourage Nick to cheer up and that there is more to life than this. He tells Agate that that was the only thing that made him happy, but right then, she gives him a ticket to her first show and tells Nick she's actually an upcoming idol. He declines the offer to come to her show, but when she walks away she promises that it will make him feel better. After we see Nick at the event cheering her on, and she became his world, as it's the only thing that took his mind off being abandoned by the people he once loved, and now finally he's found another passion he loves. He has also bought several trinkets and merch that were sold in the event and covers his entire room with Agate fan items and posters. But suddenly, Nick realizes he's run out of money to buy other things he needs, like food and clothes, and can no longer live in Labyrinth City without being an adventure. So he decides to turn up to the place where all the rookie adventurers will meet up for the first time, and he's on the search of creating a new group. But Nick only wants this group to earn money and get back to being a lonely fanboy and drooling over Agate again. But this is something he won't admit to the others. When he enters, he meets a level 1 boy, and Nick tries talking with him. But as he approaches him, Argus was talking inside Nick's head, and can hear the old man's voice saying he's not cut out to be a leader of an adventurer party, and that he's too weak and worthless to everyone, which makes Nick completely lose interest in talking with the newbie. At this moment, another guy steals the noob and he joins another party instead, and Argus somehow made poor Nick look ridiculous without even being there. Nick has spent all this time throughout the day making a fool of himself in the rookie gathering, and Nick is incredibly sad knowing he hasn't achieved any kind of success on creating a new group and has completely lost his self-esteem and confidence due to Argus's last words toward him. Nick's only wish now was to somehow get revenge on Argus, but Nick finds this incredibly hard to do since he cannot find another legendary group like his previous one, and has no hope in finding new friends. Instead, Nick just sits alone with a drink and wants to be all by himself. While in the bar, he watches as others are all celebrating their newly found groups of adventurers, and all is great for the rest of the people in the bar. But soon after, 3 more people enter the bar, and they all sit at the same table as Nick, as it was the only free table in the restaurant. It was a pretty strange situation since none of them actually talked to each other, as Nick comes to the realization that they were not part of any group or the same party. In addition, Nick notes that one of the strangers is this mysterious looking girl, who has a magic cane with a stone gem. She seems quite peculiar, but her presence radiates the room, and Nick explains how out of everyone, she sticks out like a sore thumb. He begins to draw his own conclusions on who they all might be, and starts with the girl, who he believes is a magician. On the other hand, the other member of the group is a cleric, who is already quite drunk, and according to Nick, everything indicates that he was just at the club as he can still smell women's perfume on him and he seems deeply in sorrow. And then we have the third member, who is another girl and is also a part of the dragon race, making her half dragon and half human. With that figured out, the waitress brings more drinks to the table, and in that moment Nick picks up his drink and decides to make a toast. But it's a toast to himself, saying he doesn't care about Argus, his beautiful ex-girlfriend, or the good old days of being a master adventurer. At the end of his toast, he slams the cup down, shouting out loudly that he will never trust anyone ever again. But at the same time he did that, the other three sitting at the table said the same exact thing, and Nick was shocked. The anime then gives us a brief background on these three other characters and why they no longer trust anyone, just like Nick. Starting with the sorceress girl, whose name is Tiana. She's a cute and kind-hearted girl, studying how to become a mage, and this is just a normal day of training her powers. But after her training, she was approached by the school's headmaster, who informs her that even though she has mastered all the elements of magic, she is still very humble, and tells her she should feel proud of herself because Tiana has become the most powerful sorceress of the entire school. So with that, Tiana leaves the school that day in a very happy mood, and is pleased about everything she has managed to achieve with her sorcery. After that, she heads to a nearby restaurant and asks the receptionist if her fiancé, called Alex, was already there, and the receptionist said he was, but also tries to explain to Tiana how another girl was here, but she didn't listen. So Tiana decides not to give any notice to what she said. And when she enters the place, there she saw her fiancé Alex, who is already sitting down with another girl named Lynn. However, Tiana sits at the same table and very happily tells Alex that she was named the best mage in the school, and that she was the only one who managed to cast the lightning spell at a young age. But Alex does not pay attention to this and starts to lie about his own fiancé. He tells Tiana that he had heard rumors about her bullying Lynn for being a commoner, and also adds that Tiana had apparently been seducing the teachers, thus gaining extra marks and scores on her exams and getting the approval of the headmaster himself, which annoys Tiana a lot, as these are all blatant lies made up by Alex. She asks them both to stop all this, but Alex doesn't listen, and is still so angry with her and begins to tell her that he also feels insulted due to her being better than him at magic as she's only a woman. Holy Christ, this guy must have a small package, as he brings a lot of small D energy. My dude can't handle a real woman. But yes, to sum it up, Alex simply can't believe that a girl is better than him in almost all regards and hates this about Tiana, especially because it's his own girlfriend. So he continues to reproach her with these made-up rumors and ends his relationship with Tiana and tells her he's better off with Lynn. We then learn about how Tiana and Alex got engaged, and they were only engaged due to family relations between both their families, and it was arranged by them. And after hearing they broke up, this then caused Tiana to receive rejection from her father and also her entire family for having failed this commitment with Alex. So due to this act, they excluded her from the family home, and now she has no other option but to leave town. Later on, she arrives at what would have been her newly married couple home. After, she realizes that she's all alone and has been betrayed by her loved ones and own family, all because she's an awesome mage who just happens to be better than others, and thus causing people to hate her for no apparent reason. After all she's been through, this gave Tiana a certain devilish look in her eyes as she doesn't trust anyone anymore, and thus making people scared of her, and they will not even look her way. And if they happen to do so, just like this bartender did, they will just scream and instantly run away, as she looks so fierce and hostile to just about anyone she looks at. Tiana doesn't understand why this is, and tries to smile more, but nothing seems to wipe that look from her face after being treated harshly by the people she loved. She also ran out of money just like Nick did, and had no support from her noble family anymore, so she tried getting work, but everyone turns her down. She was walking back to her home without finding any work, and suddenly she found an ad for betting on races, saying she will become rich quick. In her first bet, she won it, but then she wanted to keep on betting, and she bets on many other races, but due to her addiction she ends up losing everything she had. Tiana is now very sad and extremely disappointed in herself. She wonders what will happen to her now, and then she goes out once again. But this time she found out about the Adventurers Rookie Club and begins her journey to find the Adventurers Club. While she was looking at that advertisement, a man approaches her, offering her a spot in his group. But when the girl turns around to look at him, her look instantly scared the man so much that he ran away. And that's her story on how she ends up arriving at the bar. After Tiana, Nick asks Cleric how he ended up here too, and he introduces himself as Zen, and he comes from another famous city before he arrived to Labyrinth. In the previous city, there is the Temple of the Meddler God. and the place where he used to work as their priest, and he was once very loved by all its inhabitants, due to his kind heart and careness for everyone in the city. In addition to this, a girl belonging to the noble family named Merle gets treated like a princess, and she frequently brings back some herbs for Zen. And on that same day, at night, he was working with those herbs. But Merle comes in and brings him many more herbs, and he thanks her for helping him out. Just then, she takes him by the hand and asks him if he likes her back. This shocks Zen, and he answers her, saying that she's still too young for him and to find someone her own age. He's a well-loved man, who has cast his vow to be a priest of the city, and therefore orders her to go back now as it's too late, and told her she cannot go out with anyone. After hearing this, it annoys the girl, and after exchanging some strong words, she runs away, screaming while telling him that she hates him a lot. She now has a plan to take revenge on Zen for rejecting her love and wants to sabotage his position as being the city's priest. After a normal day, Zen was talking to one of the townspeople about his promotion of becoming what's known as the High Cleric, and everything was fine, until the authorities suddenly arrived to arrest him. Neryl's plan had been successful since she invented a whole plan to ruin his reputation, saying he tried to get close with her. After doing this, it clearly satisfied her craving for revenge. This left Zen very sad and disappointed since he was clearly innocent, and even so they still took him to prison and kept him there for 3 months. After being imprisoned, he was banished from his own city, and then he went to visit an old friend who currently didn't know what had happened. So she lets him spend the night at her house, and that same night they had a very loving encounter. The next day, this woman offers him some food while also recommending that he go to the city of Labyrinth and try becoming an adventurer there. That's what she believes will take his mind off things and everything that has happened to him. However, she insists that he leaves now and start his new life elsewhere, as he's a great person and is a still young man who should have dreams and aspirations. She tells him he can prove his talents in other places of the world. In addition to this, the woman gives him something that, according to her, another tenant had left behind on a particular given night, and the woman hands over some valuable adventurer items so that he could develop his skills, as he's only a cleric. After this, he began to look for a new life and forgets about ever being a noble priest, which is why Zen enjoys drinking and being with different women. However, Nick tells the group that he hopes these are not just drunken stories and they are actually accurate, but to prove he is serious, Zen tells him that after leaving this bar, he is going straight to the pit to kill the Demon King of Labyrinth City to become rich. However, Nick thinks nothing of this at first and doesn't pay much attention to what he's saying at all. After, Nick tells the dragon girl, named Karen, it's her turn to tell her story of how she ended up here. So she starts explaining that something of great importance was stolen from her, and the person who took it was someone she never thought would have betrayed her. But as she is drunk, she starts babbling on and on about other random stuff in her life and continues to drink. But right then, Nick falls into a dream and then wakes up the next day at Tiana's house. When he wakes, he thinks he must have dreamt about finding other lonely adventurers, but suddenly the same people he met were already in the room with him, and he now remembers everything. Apparently none of them have any idea how they all ended up here, but because they are strangers to each other and not in an official party, Tiana kindly asks them all to leave. So the others leave her house without any further questions. As they leave, Nick tells them to suddenly stop, and he begins to give them all a little moral help, just like that idol agate done for him when he was all depressed. After Nick's little speech, he suggests that if the 4 of them no longer trust humanity anymore, then how about they only trust each other and become the ultimate party seeking for their revenge for everyone who abandoned them. They all agree as they have nothing to lose, and later on, they arrive at a place where a lady receives them all. She recognizes the protagonist as he once belonged to the well-known Masters of War group. In addition, this lady affirms that among them there is a survivor who would have survived in a miraculous way, having made it out of a C-class labyrinth. And the person she was actually talking about was Karen, the weird dragon girl. She gets shy, but admits that made it out alive, and the group are proud of her. After, the woman asks what name they want to give their new group. Then Nick decides to call his new group the Survivors. After, they have their first official meeting as a group, and Nick proposes that the group shall have 3 laws so that everything goes well, and no one can break these laws. And the first law would be that no one can shame another of their favorite hobbies. The second is to keep an eye on the party's finances, and the third is to always make it back alive after their adventures. After saying the rules, Nick tells them that he will be the one to manage the group's money, under the supervision of Tiana, and the priest will watch over the safe and keep the treasure safe. But due to their previous trust issues, they start to protest and discuss how Mick would be the most benefited from their hard work if he's the one managing the money. Then they begin to discuss a very important topic, which is how they can even trust each other, and it is true that they are all strangers and therefore they are still distrustful. But in a certain way they all agree to leave their emotions from the past behind them and begin to trust one more time, as they have nothing to lose this time. And they all found each other in the bar, so they need to have a change of heart. Otherwise their life will be the same and just be miserable all day. Thus they end with the talk. In a change of scene, the group goes to their first mission, a G-class labyrinth called the Viscous Aqueduct. Because they are considered a rookie group, they can only do 2 more labyrinths and will have to defeat their bosses in order to rank up to the F class. Then the protagonist explains to the others that it won't be very difficult, since these G-class mazes are basically training grounds for the new adventurers to understand how labyrinths work. And as they walk into the temple, they find a slime which will be their first prey they've hunted. So when they stop to observe, the protagonist explains to them that although the slimes seem harmless, they can eat just about anything that comes their way. And as they eat, they grow to a bigger size, and some have grown so large that they can attack farms and eat farmers' cows. However, Nick also tells them how easy it is to eliminate the baby slimes, because all you have to do is extract the gem from their bodies. With this, the group continues to go deeper into the labyrinth, and meanwhile Nick thinks about how good it was of him creating the group, and while continuing to hunt slimes, they ask Nick more about the monsters in this G-class labyrinth, and he said it's mainly slimes and goblins. But the A-rank labyrinth will have the Demon Lord boss fight, and every adventurer guild will be trying to win the A-rank labyrinth. He warns them that although these slimes are small, they can still shoot out parts of slimes at you, so he warns them to never let their guard down. But Tiana just continues to believe that they are harmless, and moments after, a slime attacks her, and she gets some juicy instant karma. Tiana gets furious at Slime Kun, and then tries to attack him, but because she was not careful while aiming her mage powers, she directed the attack towards Karin. So these 2 girls began to have a little argument because according to Karin, she was starting to not trust Tiana to be careful. So she warns her not to attack her again, because otherwise she will respond with a breath of fire as she is the dragon. Moving on, the group continues to reach the top of the first labyrinth, and where Zen notices a giant slime. Nick tells them this would be known as the slime boss, so without any hesitation, Tiana quickly casts a very powerful ice dagger spell against the crazy slime, causing it to explode. But fortunately no one else gets hurt, and they manage to get the gem from the monster, which they can trade for money. After being splashed out of the labyrinth, Nick takes this opportunity to organize the group and assign the correct positions to each person. So he starts by showing all his components, and decides that he should be the leader in combat situations. And as a previous adventurer, he can lead an exploration of any labyrinth. However, he has no idea about spells or magical healing. He also can't use heavy weapons like Karin. He then suggests to others that they do the same and tell everyone their weaknesses as a kind gesture of trust to the group in order to know the limits of one another. But as they are still only strangers, the rest of the group are finding it hard to tell everyone their weaknesses. After, Nick explains that they don't have to do it right now, but he was fine with letting them all know his weakness, since that's the only way to start gaining trust in their party. After, Zen listens to Nick and takes the opportunity to talk about his abilities as a healer, but said his weakness is everything other than healing magic. And Tiana gets up and stands in front of Karin and takes the opportunity to apologize for what had happened, and then explains to everyone her greatest abilities, which is wind and water magic, along with her powerful lightning attack, but she sucks at fire magic and can't do the things that Karin can do. And she also stresses that she is completely vulnerable to close attacks, and she doesn't know how to use other people's weapons. Karin can't handle that Tiana is so nice, and when she sits down, Tiana is cold in the middle of the forest, so she sneezes and spits out fire, making a mini fire for Tiana, but she yells at her, saying she was actually aiming for her face, which makes the group laugh. After learning each other's weaknesses, they explore the forest to find the entrance for the next labyrinth. While doing so, they stumble across goblin territory. This is where Nick shows his true talents and defeats many goblins within a matter of seconds, shocking the rest of the group. In order to find more gems and rank up their group, Tiana performs a magical detection spell, and informs the others that there are more goblins and she can detect them from over 500 meters away. Zen tells her that it's not very common to be able to detect other magic sources from this far away, as Zen studies all magical arts. After this, they get into a huge argument about Nick, and how Nick has been undermining his true strengths to the rest of the group, and they agree that Nick's true weakness is him hiding his true strength, and not having a huge ego, or simply enough self-esteem, as he's actually much stronger than he shows people. And Karin notices that he only left her one goblin to kill out of the whole bunch. But as they argue, Tiana warns them that she's just detected another very powerful magical source coming from within the goblin forest. However, it's so strong that it can't just be a goblin. Nick warns them that it could be an ogre or even an evolved hobgoblin. He tells them that these creatures are incredibly hard to defeat, even as a team, as the others are very inexperienced and they could all die if they make the wrong move. Nick adds that everything will depend on him and Karin, since all evolved goblins and ogres are very resistant to magic spells, so Zen and Tiana could only be useful as a distraction. While Nick and Karin attack the monsters with sheer strength and combat skills, however, with Karin's heavyweight sword they might stand a chance in defeating the monster, so she will be their best bet. They then make their way to the monster's lair, and they see a bunch of goblins protecting the giant ogre. Curran does what Nick proposes and takes the lead while the others follow behind her. Then Zen, together with Tiana, are in charge of giving some healing and boosting support, while keeping their distance. Meanwhile, Nick deals with the small goblins, and Curran fuses a powerful fire spell onto her sword and rises it into the air. Then she descends the sword to deliver her final blow against the monster. She manages to defeat it, and splits the thing in two. They now need to extract all the goblins' horns. Nick was struggling to pull the horns from the goblins and accidentally falls over while pushing Karen, which broke her special pendant. The story shifts to a brief flashback where Curran is seen at a street market, looking at the same necklace which she couldn't afford. Out of nowhere, the merchant started accusing her of scratching the pendant. As he demanded Curran pay for it, an adventurer named Kalios intervened and exposed the man's schemes. In exchange for not reporting the incident to the authorities, the merchant was forced to give the necklace for free. By doing so, Curran couldn't be happier that she pledged her loyalty to Kalios, the man she believed would be a hero. To repay Kalios' kindness, Curran would always throw herself on the front line whenever they raided a dungeon. For all that, Curran never once felt that she was getting exploited for being a dragonkind. That is until one day, the man she held with high regard proved her wrong. As she slowly lost consciousness because of the poison from the giant snake, Kalios delivered the final blow and killed the monster. After obtaining its core, Kalios and her supposed comrades left her for dead. As if her situation wasn't deplorable enough, Kalios stole the Dragon King gem, the sacred jewel to the Dragonkin that she was entrusted to keep safe for as long as she lives. Days passed, and she still couldn't find any leads about Kalios' whereabouts, and so she stopped searching for him. As she moved on with her life, Curran ran into Fifth, the adventurer known for being the GOAT. With his superhuman strength, the guild permitted him to explore labyrinths alone. Aside from gaining attention for his daring adventures, Fifth was also a famous food enthusiast. To make it short, he was basically the reason why Curran found comfort in food. Truth be told, what better way to forget your problems than by reminding yourself that food is a better company than humans? However, just like Nick, or more specifically, everyone else, she decided to find a job to support her love for food. Back to the present, Nick is spotted getting all worked up as he looks for the same necklace to replace the broken pendant. Living his best life as an otaku, Nick chanced upon Agate at the shop. Sitting at the same spot where they first met, Nick tells Agate about his problem. She then advises him not to overthink things and just remain a good friend to Curran. Later that day, Nick finally approaches Curran, to which he learns that she's not upset about the broken pendant. She adds that compared to her life before, she's enjoying the things as they are right now. It appears that the survivors have been promoted to rank F, hence getting their fair share of attention from the other adventurers. Off to a good start, they gather to celebrate their small wins. Just then, Ms. Wilma summons their team, offering a job to explore the Labyrinth of Bond and look for the Holy Sword, Sword of Bond. Once inside the Labyrinth of Bonds, they are greeted by man-made monsters which got roasted by Curran's flames. Following the map that the guild provided beforehand, the team comes across an empty corridor with a single light. Nick takes the initiative to check the area until the wall opens, leading them to a large hallway. Tiana activates her magic search and confirms that the coast is clear. To their shock, someone turns the lights on, and a strange voice welcomes their arrival. Looking around, they find the device where the sound is coming from. Nick doubts that it's the weapon they are looking for since it doesn't have any blade attached to it. Displeased with his statement, the device reveals that he is, in fact, the Sword of Bond. As they continue bickering, Bond tells them that he rewards those who value integrity and friendship. To add, he claims that on top of being a legendary sword, he is an angel-grade spirit weapon. While Bond blabs on and on about how good he is for some dungeon clearing, Nick and the others confess that they plan to sell him. As Bond expresses his frustration, Nick picks him up, wearing the money mouth face emoji. All hell breaks loose when the Guardian system activates, awakening his protector Amalma Golem. Instantly, Bond warns the survivors that the Guardian won't let them leave unless they defeat it. Tiana launches her icicle dance, only for the golem to throw the shards of ice back, hitting Curran in the process. Nick immediately steps in and orders his team to fall back. Facing the enemy alone, he tries to cut through its body, but it's a futile effort. At that point, Bond reveals that the golem is resistant to physical damage. For that reason, Bond suggests Nick trigger his power and use him against the golem. Although he manages to activate the sword, it refuses to fully respond to Nick's little connection with his team. Afterward, the golem strikes Nick, sending his body plummeting into a hole in the ground. With Zem boosting her mana, Tiana tries to stall the monster by freezing its body. Curran, on the other hand, attempts to rescue Nick. The latter apologizes to Curran for breaking something precious to her, to which she explains that he doesn't have to feel sorry. As she puts it, now that the necklace is broken, it helped her stop clinging to the past and move forward. At that moment, Bond tells Nick to try activating him again. As Tiana and Zem slowly accept their death, a superior entity created from fusing Nick and Curran's bodies emerges from the ground. With their combined abilities and strengthened willpower, the Golem suffers a crushing defeat. After going through all the trouble of proving that the power of friendship is real, they are informed that the sword is a counterfeit. Nonetheless, Ms. Wilma informs them that they will still get paid, much to their relief. Things take an unexpected turn when a young man turns up inside the guild, introducing himself as Kizuna, the human form of the Holy Sword. And just like that, the team welcomes its newest member. As such, Tiana dreams about her former instructor whose career was compromised when he got caught up in the scandal staged by her ex-fiancé. While Curran and Zem wake up stuffing their emotions, Nick screams in terror when his ex-girlfriend Claudine appears in his dream. As it turns out, it is caused by Kizuna's telepathy, which they have been using occasionally as a means of communication. Sometime later, they stumble upon another ogre. To show off his combat ability, Kizuna decides to grant them a work break by facing the monster alone. Using his parallel technique, he summons a duplicate and with quick work, defeats the ogre. The members acknowledge his skills until Kizuna admits that his telepathy enables him to borrow stamina and magic power from them. He then reveals that he possesses the swordsmanship skills of the warriors who wielded him before. Despite Kizuna acting all high and mighty, they believe that he can be an asset to their party. Going for lunch out, Nick's heart skips a bit when Curran leads them to the same restaurant which appeared in his dream. Interestingly enough, he spots Claudine inside, seemingly preying upon her new victim. Carrying out the same trick she used on Nick, he intercepts his ex-girlfriend's conning and saves the innocent lad. After getting exposed to her schemes, Claudine leaves the place at once. Later on, the con artist returns, splashing a cold beer on Nick's head. With her party leader Leon from Iron Tiger Corps, Claudine tries to provoke him into a fight with Nick. However, the joke's on her when Nick reveals that Claudine's supposed to leave their group had she succeeded in swindling the lad. Taking the squabble outside, Leon apologizes to Nick, stating that he plans to kick Claudine out after attracting countless trouble for being a big con. Leon also expresses his interest in working with Nick, congratulating him for coming up with the survivors and extorting the members. Irked by his assertions, Nick gives the tiger kind a good beating until Beck, Leon's underling, knocks him down. Just then, Curran joins the commotion, giving the other guy a taste of his own medicine. Suddenly, Ms. Wilma and the receptionist enter the picture, not necessarily to stop the scuffle but to suggest settling things between them the adventurer's way. Hence, Leon challenges Nick to the traditional arithmetic bare knuckle. To let us get a better understanding of the said challenge, arithmetic bare knuckle involves 10 rounds of fighting. As the participants exchange blows inside the ring, their respective partners will simultaneously solve some math questions. In layman's terms, whoever scores higher in the test grants their fighter a free punch to their opponent. Unfortunately, Curran, who sucks at math, is pitted against the woman who loves counting money, Claudine, mocking the former as the survivor's weakest link. Over the next few days, the members help Curran study for the upcoming duel. While they are at it, Zem is busy bar hopping. For the record, alongside Tiana, Zem ticks all the boxes in terms of having a tragic backstory befitting a villain. But hey, he chose to release his pent-up emotions in a different way. It is then revealed that Zem not only enjoyed meeting different women but also investigated the Iron Tiger Corps and learned about their illegal operations. With that, the survivors prepare a contingency plan to win the duel and eventually uncover their opponent's dirty plays. The day for the arithmetic bare knuckle finally arrives. As the fighters square up in the ring, Curran starts answering the questions until she finishes first, much to her delight. However, her happiness is short-lived when it is announced that Claudine got the most questions correct, earning Leon his first punch on Nick. After getting punched in the gut, Nick receives a solid right hook in the second round, leaving Curran frantic with worry. Meanwhile, Leon continues to buy time by simply dodging Nick's punches until the third round is over, which ends in the former's favor. Unable to locate any suspicious person nearby, Tiana thinks of a way to lure him out. And so, she suggests letting the test takers answer the remaining questions in one go. Although losing the gamble means the defeated will take all 7 penalty punches, Nick accepts the challenge. Ms. Vilma agrees as Curran and Claudine resume their head-to-head battle. Following the change in rules, Tiana signals Zem and Kizuna to join her as they attempt to catch the culprit red-handed. Turns out that the other party uses telepathy gems, with Beck feeding the answers to Claudine. In the end, the authorities arrest the Iron Tiger Corps for cheating and soon enough, for other crimes that have yet to come to light. With Claudine taken into custody, several men just got saved from suffering heartbreak and losing their savings. Elsewhere, Leon is interrogated for his involvement with a treasure that has been missing for years. Claiming that the sword did not even show up in the black market, the guard threatens to subject Leon to torture. To save him the trouble of searching for it, Leon summons the weapon, the Sword of Ruinous Evolution. After earning big bucks from the bare-knuckle fighting, the survivors take a break. Nick and Kazuna join Tiana at the casino to try the best ice cream being served there, only to be told it's sold out. With a smug look on her face, Tiana takes all the players' gaming chips. Donnie, Agate's boyfriend, leaves the card table, fuming over his loss. All at once, the people start running when Leon, who evolved into a monster and escaped the dungeon by activating the sword's power, goes on a rampage. Searching for Nick, he bumps into Tiana, who can't believe her eyes when she realizes the monster's real identity. Speaking of Leon, he reveals that his transformation enhanced his sense of smell to the point that he can smell lies. He threatens to crush Tiana should she lie about Nick's whereabouts. At that instant, Tiana tells Leon that holding her hostage doesn't make sense, stating that the survivors aren't friends in the first place, only a bunch of paranoid people who teamed up together because of their deep-seated distrust of humanity. As soon as Leon lets his guard down, Tiana launches a sneak attack and rushes to the exit. To her shock, Leon seems unscathed, catching up to her quickly. Tiana orders Donnie to take Agate and flee the scene at once. Alone with Leon, Tiana stresses that Nick won't save her, to which he actually senses she isn't lying about her claims. Thinking that keeping Tiana alive serves no purpose, Leon decides to just dispatch her. Not long after they thought that Nick won't show up, he blocks Leon's attack with Kazuna in his sword form. Evolution instantly detects Bond's presence, prompting Leon to activate his full power. In a snap, Leon evolves into a much more vicious monster. As a response, Nick and Tiana try to test their friendship, and lo and behold, they successfully fuse into one body. The two-in-one warrior tries to restrain Leon, who's unable to control his mind and body. Against his wishes, Leon goes berserk, harming innocent civilians in the process. He continues to fight off evolution in a vain attempt to free himself and prove that he is not an absolute evil. Leon slowly succumbs to evolution's brainwashing, exploiting his wielder's emotions for his dark intentions. Upon seeing an opening, Tiana and Nick envelop Leon's body with the casino's anti-magic cards, rendering him back to normal. Later that night, Nick visits Leon in prison. Nick tells him that they already sealed evolution. He adds that he and Tiana were aware that Leon tried desperately not to kill anyone despite being under evolution's control. The series takes us to another flashback when Agate was still known by her real name Belle Huggins. She helped out with the work in Donnie's bar and occasionally sang when she had the chance. Little did she know that a music producer happened to be hanging around the area, and the rest is history. The moment she was scouted to be an idol and saw idols perform on stage, she knew that she was destined to be just like them. It was all rainbows and butterflies until her boyfriend started showing his true colors. Donnie's business went down the drain, and he became desperate to save his bread and butter. Knowing full well that Agate has been earning a lot from being an idol, Donnie kept borrowing her money. It didn't take long until he got addicted to gambling, and coincidentally enough, he encountered the gambling queen herself, Tiana. Unaware of Tiana and Nick's fusion, when the female knight made her grand entrance and defeated Leon, Agate felt something grow inside her heart. From then on, she looked up to the female knight as a role model and called her Lady Paladin. Back to the present, Donnie is given enough money to cover up his debts in exchange for ending his relationship with Agate. As part of their agreement, he should treat Agate as a stranger if they chance upon each other in the streets. A few days later, Agate holds out a concert for her comeback, crediting her return to the goddess she met at the casino. In a short while, Nick realizes that she's talking about them, over which he does not know exactly what to feel. To kick off her concert, Agate sings a new song dedicated to her Lady Paladin. As it seems, an unknown creature called Stepping Man is reportedly raising concerns across the city. Obsessing over Stepping Man, who is depicted as a monster kidnapping the children, is Kazuna. While his comrades don't think such a creature exists, Olivia, a reporter and adventurer, expresses her interest in Stepping Man, asking them to contact her once they witness any suspicious sightings. Night falls. Nick and Kazuna are spotted happily leaving a concert when the latter senses Zem is in danger. The concert buddies hurriedly search for him until they find the rumored Stepping Man in an alley. Kazuna charges at the mysterious creature, but unfortunately, he loses sight of his target. After that, Zem, seemingly protecting a young girl, comes into view. Known as Riene, the girl claims that her assailant was indeed Stepping Man, stressing that her mother has been investigating the culprit's existence. Zem tells everyone that he believes Riene's statement and even praises her mother's bravery. Oddly enough, Riene asks Zem to take her as his apprentice, to which Nick immediately intervenes, as he has heard of the same scenario before. Surprisingly, Zem is all calm and collected as he declines her request, suggesting she takes a rest to clear her head off. While Rihanna hopes to at least hug Zem, they stop her from doing so. Zem then reminds Rihanna that she shouldn't get any closer to him until she becomes an adult. Heading to the outskirts of the Labyrinth City, the survivors enter a guild known for having bounty hunters instead of adventurers. There, they ask the receptionist for any leads about Stepping Man's identity. Since they don't give out information on big bounties to new adventurers, the receptionist decides to have them take an intermediate level quest and capture a man named Hale. As they discuss the reward, Ash, one of the hunters, seems upset about the adventurers taking on their jobs, suggesting they should stick to goblin hunting. While Ash calls for a wager, Tiana slams a bag of coins on the table, betting on their success to bring Hale to the guild. On their way to their destination, the survivors are warned by the gatekeeper to stay out of the way of Nalgarva. Later on, they run into a group of thugs which they easily restrain, squeezing out any information about Hale's location. Continuing their quest, Zem can't help but feel troubled seeing the living conditions of the people in the area. Soon afterward, they are able to find Hale and capture him with little to no effort. Just as they are about to leave, Nalgarva, another ex-priest, intercepts them, revealing that Hale is his patient for contracting Yellow Devil disease. They mention the bounty on Hale's head, forcing Nalgarva to surrender him. As expected, Kazuna takes the opportunity to ask about Stepping Man. While they can't get anything from Nalgarva, Hale informs them about a reporter handing out candies and talking to children in the streets. Back at the guild, Channa grabs the betting money and treats everyone to a drink. The next morning, the receptionist gives them the payment along with the case files connected to Stepping Man. At that point, Olivia turns up, interviewing the unsuspecting kid. After hearing Kazuna and Curran's sentiments regarding their first encounter with Stepping Man and Olivia, Nick confronts the reporter. As he starts interrogating Olivia, she escapes by jumping through the roof, leaving Curran and Tiana's effort to guard the exits useless. Sometime later, Riene's mother, Ada, greets them and expresses her gratitude for saving her daughter. It appears that Ada is pretty famous amongst adventurers, as Nick says she is in a rank. Ada also happens to be acquainted with Fifth, sharing that the latter is now an S rank. Suddenly, Riene, yet again, opens up about wanting to be Zem's apprentice. From the looks of it, Zem has been putting up a facade as he confesses that he has developed a phobia of young girls like Riene. When she asks Zem why he saved her, he says anyone would have done the same. That said, Zem admits that he was surprised himself, thinking that he might overcome his fear one day. After opening up about his painful past, their discussion shifts to the pressing problem. To defeat Stepping Man, Nick pleads with Ada to teach them how to win against a formidable force. To start, Ada gives them a mushroom drink that can release their latent magic abilities. Following a quick pep talk is an intense physical training designed to let them fight Stepping Man in mid-air. Speaking of the enemy, the survivors encounter Stepping Man once more, and although it manages to escape, they start to think that Olivia might not be the culprit. Thinking that the kidnapper uses some ancient magic tools, Nick pays Leon a visit. In exchange for some steamed buns, Leon mentions the Illusion King gem that can alter one's presence and look. To counter the illusions, Leon reveals that they just have to confront the enemy by figuring out the user's name. After Zem and Tiana's investigation, they manage to narrow down the enemy's zone, leading them back to the outskirts of the city. To their disappointment, the gatekeeper gives an update about random cases, leaving them treading on thin ice. Walking in a heavy fog, Olivia attacks Nick. As he displays the result of his training with Ada, Olivia accuses him of being Stepping Man. Kazuna uses his parallel to tackle her, only to be countered by the same technique. Nick calls her name, but nothing happens, and thus they have a sit-down conversation. According to Olivia, she is really a reporter and is also known as Stepping Man. To set the record straight, Olivia only shared the same title as she was called such when she was a full-time adventurer. Upon confirming that neither of them is the person responsible for kidnapping children, both parties decide to work together to find the real deal. Elsewhere, Olivia and the survivors stop by Stepping Man's latest victim, in hopes to find anything that can expedite their investigation. Examining the corpse of the poor girl, Zem discovers an Illusion King gem fragment under the child's body. When Olivia breaks the gem, a burnt mark appears on the girl's arm, and traces of Yellow Devil disease treatment manifest. Looking into the victim's case file, they notice that the evidence points to the location they once visited. There and then, Zem reckons that they might just have found Stepping Man. The next scene shows Nick engaging in one-on-one combat with Stepping Man. Just as he calls his opponent by his name, the illusion wears off, revealing the face of the ex-priest Nalgarva. As the two seemingly stand on an equal footing, Nick manages to let Nalgarva fall for his trap, getting the latter surrounded by the survivors. When Zem asks him why he spread the Yellow Devil disease, Nalgarva reveals that his daughter died of it. To make matters worse, people started to spread rumors about his daughter jumping from one relationship to another when the disease was purported to be sexually transmitted. Well, the truth was her daughter got into contact with infected blood from one of Nalgarva's patients while she was just mainly trying to copy what her father was doing as a doctor. Refusing to let her death be in vain, Nalgarva desperately searched for a cure, even if it meant sacrificing innocent children. Zem lashes out at Nalgarva for disregarding the indescribable pain his victims and their families felt. Unrepentant, Nalgarva bursts into maniacal laughter, claiming that getting rid of him won't change a thing. As they get into a heated argument, Kizuna alerts the others that someone is coming. A knight donning full armor attempts to silence Nalgarva by piercing his body. Zem tries to heal Nalgarva but is soon sent crashing into the ground. Infuriated, Curran and Tiana fire a simultaneous attack, but to no avail as they get taken down easily. Olivia jumps into the scene to buy them some time, calling the enemy White Mask. Surprisingly, she is able to block his blade with her bare hands. Going all out on the offensive, Olivia distracts White Mask, giving Nick and Zem enough time to merge their bodies into one. Realizing that his opponents possess a similar relic, White Mask traps Olivia in a magic barrier to stop her from interfering. Apparently, the barrier is filled with pressure that will soon crush her body as she stays inside. They try to save Olivia but are stopped by White Mask in no time. Overwhelmed by the enemy's sheer strength, the 2-in-1 warrior takes advantage of Nick's speed, playing on White Mask's vulnerable point. With the knight all focused on his opponent, the barrier weakens, giving Olivia her chance to escape. She tries to distract White Mask again, and just as the enemy believes that he finally gets the upper hand, Bond stabs him in the face. Impressed that someone proves to be at par with his abilities, White Mask flees the scene, and sends the building caught up in a massive explosion. Fortunately, they only suffer minor injuries, although Nalgarva might be a different case. Knowing full well that he's going to die from White Mask's curse or from getting infected with the Yellow Devil disease, Nalgarva tells them to leave before the building collapses. Zem casts a spell to at least distract Nalgarva from pain before they escape the place. While the survivors feel relieved after solving the mystery behind Stepping Man, Olivia warns them of a bigger threat. With White Mask on the loose and the high probability that someone more powerful controls him, Olivia advises them not to let their guard down. Ultimately, she reveals her true nature. Aside from being a reporter, an adventurer, and Stepping Man, she is also a spirit-grade anti-demon weapon called the Sword of Prowess. After the incident with Stepping Man, the survivors fall into deep melancholia. As such, Nick remembers the face of the bandit who murdered both of his parents. If it wasn't for Argus, he would have died and let his family's sacrifice come to naught. After saving Nick from the assailant, Argus took him as a member of countless battle arts. Even though Nick was already kicked out of the guild, he still keeps the broken dagger Argus gave him. Meanwhile, Zem acts somewhat like Nalgarva's successor as he runs a clinic in the same poverty-stricken village. In retrospect, he doesn't really know if he's doing it to pay his respect or just to satisfy himself. Nonetheless, Zem is happy to be of help to anyone in need. Tiana, on the other hand, finds herself constantly waking up in the middle of the night. She tries to blow off some steam by returning to gambling, but weirdly enough, winning no longer satisfies her. Curran, who always wears a smile whenever they meet inside the guild, realizes that she hasn't completely forgotten about Kalios. No matter how much she tries to leave it all in the past, she wants to make him pay for stealing the Dragon King gem. Later on, she comes across the same merchant, doing the same trick to a young girl. Instantly, the man cowers at the sight of Curran, finally letting the girl leave. Just then, Nick and the others call for her attention, asking her to join them to watch the festival. On their way to have fun after a long time, Olivia turns up, rushing to catch up to them. With her non-stop tomfoolery, Tiana reads the news before Olivia can speak about the resurrection of the Dark Demon God. Finally dropping her playful antics, Olivia explains that White Mask might be involved with it. She also talks about finding the black market where the Illusion King gem was sold. As Olivia goes back to her usual self, Curran asks her if there's a possibility that the Dragon King gem ended up in the black market too. To make her feel any better, her comrades suggest they turn her search for the sacred jewel into a quest for the survivors. And just like that, the team is back, all pumped up to chase after the bad guys. Elsewhere, Kizuna and Olivia exchange views as both artifacts who will outlive the survivors. As Olivia feels that they are lacking in ambition, Kizuna thinks they still have a long way to go to strengthen their resolve. That said, they have enough faith in their potential, believing that they can conquer the Dark Demon God and perhaps save the world. Thanks for watching. Watch this next video, and until next time, my fellow plot masters, take care.